Watch glitches. In this video, I want to propose some amendments to the XRPL AMM and yeah, hopefully get you guys involved in this and provide some feedback as well. If you're engaged directly with the XRPL AMMs, I think this video would be very useful for you. Many of you probably are engaged, but you don't realize because you're using interfaces that hide all of this stuff away. So this would be of interest if you want to learn more about AMMs in general. So a little bit of background. I've been using a token on the XRPL called METH to play around with real value on a real AMM, which was deployed kind of a good few weeks ago now. Previously to that, I was involved in beta testing the XRPL AMM, and I've been using them pretty much in anger for the last few months now, along with a community of other informed kind of participants as well. So based on what we've learned in the last few months, I've put together this list which comes from a number of different participants. I didn't create this myself, so credit to everyone that's been involved, everyone in the METH community that has chipped in, and kind of we've come to these conclusions together as a group. And I think that's important to understand for anyone else who's kind of listening to this at the moment. So let's jump into some of these proposed amendments. I want to start by the first thing that we want to do is to give the liquidity providers the ability to set fees across all the different kinds of transactions that are available on the AMM, and also specifically down to the asset that may be being used in the transaction. So today, the XRPL AMMs offer the ability for liquidity pool providers to vote on the fee to a maximum of 1%, like 100 basis points. That fee will be applied to swaps and to single-sided deposits and withdrawals. The fee is not applied to double-sided deposits and withdrawals. And this is great. It means that to engage with the AMM, it will cost participants whatever the fee is. The fee is calculated before the asset engages directly with the AMM. So if you're going to kind of swap 100 XRP out of the pool for the other token, in this case METH, the 1% fee is removed from your 100 before the transaction is processed. That fee goes back into the pool, so the liquidity providers are rewarded with a fee, and that's essentially how it works. It's pretty much the same principle with the single-sided deposits and withdrawals. What we're proposing here is to be able to customize that fee on every transaction type. So it would be possible for liquidity providers to vote on the fee for a different fee for a single-sided swap of XRP or a single-sided withdrawal of METH. All of these would have their own fee structure, and the LPs can vote on what those fees are. Now, I think this is really important. The reason is that as participants in providing liquidity over the last few months, we have witnessed various kinds of behaviors on the pools. And depending on why the participants created the pool, like we provide in the METH XRP pool, as part of Methonomics, we provide some guidance to the liquidity providers. The guidance is there to help them maximize the benefits of the rewards of the liquidity that they provide, but also importantly, so that they understand the impact of the interactions, the transactions they make with the pool, so as not to cause unnecessary harm to the other participants, the other liquidity providers specifically, but also holders of the asset as well. You may be a holder of METH and not participating in the liquidity pool. The actions of other participants can impact the exchange rate of the METH that you hold against XRP. So, we've as a community decided like what the guidance is for the pool that we provide. That guidance can't really be enforced. At best, it's kind of maybe some social pressure that can be applied, or education is the most powerful kind of weapon that we have in terms of making sure that the guidance that we provide is at least made aware to holders and participants of METH, so that they can make an informed decision as to how they interact with the pool. If we allow these fees to actually be more nuanced and allow LP providers to vote on the different level, the different fees on every different transaction type, we can actually codify our guidance into the pool, and we can incentivize the kinds of transactions that we would like to see in the pool and disincentivize those that may cause harm from our perspective, right? As liquidity pool providers and holders of METH. So I think this can be quite powerful by letting the community, giving the community more flexibility in terms of setting the fees. I would add to this what's missing. The 1% fee is really low. I think I speculate that the 1% comes from like the original concept of these AMMs, is that large amounts of large volumes of liquidity would be flowing in and out of these pools, and we have to pick a figure. 100 basis points, a maximum of 100 basis points, 1% fee is very high for providing liquidity provisioning, but that really comes from TradFi and other chains where there's a lot more volume. And also the AMM pools have been designed for different purposes on those other chains. So I would say commensurate with this amendment proposal to allow greater flexibility for the fee, setting the fees across all transaction types down to the granularity of the asset that's actually involved in the transaction, we should also increase or give the LP providers a greater maximum fee that they can choose to use. So it may be, I would say 5 to 10% is kind of, it's down to the LP providers. Maybe if there's a maximum cap of fees across all of these transaction types of 5 to 10% by the ledger, that's great. The LP providers can then choose if they actually want to charge 10% for a single-sided withdrawal of XRP from a pool, which is kind of one of the most harmful things you can do from the perspective of a liquidity pool provider, from the perspective of a holder of the asset that wants it to appreciate its exchange rate against XRP. A single-sided withdrawal of XRP from the pool is very harmful. Maybe what we could do with this amendment is to give the liquidity pool providers the option of raising the fee on such transactions to 5%, so that if you want to withdraw a large amount of XRP from the pool as an LP, there's a cost in doing that, right? And I think this is, again, it's well understood in TradFi that if you want access to your liquidity very quickly, there's a cost involved in that. And I think 1% has proven to be too low given the volumes of transactions and the amount of liquidity in these pools, which is very, very low in comparison to anything else, frankly, any other blockchain or of this size. Of the market cap of XRP, and certainly if you look at other TradFi kind of equivalents of this kind of liquidity provisioning, their volumes are massively high, so they can afford to have fees that are in this kind of very like 100 basis points or less, 25 basis points, 15 basis points, which is often what I'm hearing from people, and I think they haven't really given this much consideration. They're just parroting a number that has been shared in the community that comes from TradFi, which is you should set your fee to like 10-15% to incentivize liquidity. I totally disagree with that. If as a liquidity provider in a small pool, which can be highly volatile, I want much higher fees for the liquidity that I provide, or at least the say in much higher fees. The other liquidity pool providers can vote me down commensurate with the amount of liquidity that they provide in the pool. So if we do end up with a pool that's got 100 million in it, it's probably not going to be me providing that 100 million. It'll probably be some kind of institution, and they'll massively be able to reduce the fee anyway. Even if the maximum is 5% or 10%, that liquidity provider can easily reduce that fee, and so be it. They voted for it, they provided the most liquidity. I just think the default settings are way too low, and they're not flexible enough so that I cannot codify, or the community can't codify, the behaviors that they would like to see the pool implement for the benefit of the liquidity providers. So yeah, just to reiterate, the LPs decide fees for all transaction types, swaps, deposits, and withdrawals, single and double-sided, for both assets in the pool, and they should also be able to be a higher level, maybe 5 to 10% imposed by the ledger, not the 1% that exists today. Commensurate with this is the auction functionality, which is just not being used at the moment simply because there isn't enough volume or liquidity in the pools to justify it. I'm not aware of really anyone that's using this auction feature. The auction feature gives the opportunity for someone trading against the pool to bid for a slot for 24 hours where they will receive zero fees for the transactions that would normally incur a fee, which is swaps and single-sided deposits and withdrawals. So by burning liquidity pool tokens, one participant can win the auction to have zero fees for those transactions, and then they can share that benefit with 5 other addresses or 4 or 5 other participants. It's a great feature. It's not being utilized at the moment simply because I think there isn't enough volume to justify it. The cost of the auction can be quite high, so you need to be transacting large amounts to benefit from zero fees. In any case, I would propose that auctions should be extended to all of the fee types that we would like to see introduced on the XRPL. And I think that makes it game theoretically a far more rich environment where the different participants can choose to reduce the fees that have been set by the liquidity providers for the particular kind of transaction that they wish to undertake, and they can do that by bidding for that slot using the existing auction mechanism. I think I would extend the existing auction mechanism to allow the bids to be in XRP or the other token in the pool, so METH in this case, not just the LPs. The reason for that is because we have seen a number of tokens being issued. They're actually kind of quite low in supply. Like METH, there's only 1,500 METH times 1 million kind of crystals. If you're burning the LP token, in this instance for METH, it's going to send the price rocketing really high, right? So, and it's going to make it very expensive to participate in these auctions. I think it should be possible to bid for an auction slot in XRP or in METH as well. And those would add liquidity to the pool rather than reducing the number of LPs that exist. So those are the first few. And then what have we got next? Provide the functionality for existing pools. Yeah, really important here, okay? The escrow amendment for the issued assets on the XRPL, I understand, is not backward compatible. Probably for good reason, right? But that's a real shame. Being able to escrow tokens is vital for real-world asset tokenizations, as we've seen, again, as part of Methonomics, which is a name that we give to the system of kind of guidance and learning that we've put together over the last few months on the METH XRP pool. We've seen the impact of non-escrowed issuance of tokens, and like it's not great. At the very best, it's very clunky. Like you issue the token, you burn the issuing address, the developer burns their operating address. In some cases, that's what's happened for METH. And then you have to hand over the way the METH did the distribution was handing it over to Tipper, a certain amount of XRP that would be used as reward tokens. If now that we have the ability to escrow issued assets on the XRPL, that's great for all new issued assets, but they're not backward compatible. So it's kind of a sigh, but I don't think we can change that. I definitely want to make sure that as much as possible, any new features that are added, if these amendments, any of them are accepted in any form, that they should be backward compatible with the existing AMMs, because now we're talking about pretty decent, sizable chunks of value affecting quite a large number of participants. If we add a new feature to the XRPL AMMs, there has to be a clear mechanism either the existing AMM can be upgraded to have these capabilities, or there should be some kind of automatic migration path where a single transaction can be voted on, maybe that takes all the liquidity out of one pool, puts it into the new version of the pool in one shot. But we need to give some thought around that, because the whole upgrade process is not fantastic. So if we make significant changes to these pools, backward compatibility or clear migration path should be really considered carefully. Yeah, I think these are the amendments that we kind of that I think would make a big difference to the AMMs. I haven't seen any of these like similar capabilities on other chains. Of course, if you've got smart contracts, it's easy to write them, but then you're in that position where the AMMs on other chains are not unique, right? So they're not all using the same pool of liquidity, which is a fabulous feature of the XRPL AMMs. There's only one METH XRP AMM. You can't create 10 of them. AMM pool. You can't create 10 of them, whereas you can on other chains have 10 Ethereum XRP pools, all created by different people in different smart contracts, which really kind of fragments the liquidity. And if you fragment the liquidity in a pool, it's not good, because it adds friction and costs and all sorts of other problems. So it's a great feature of the XRPL that the liquidity is not fragmented, it's unified on the XRPL. I would say, like, just to touch on codifying the rules, right? We provide a lot of guidance through Methonomics to any individuals that are using METH, either for research or for whatever other purpose. And actually, METH is now what I would call a metamorphic asset. Different individuals, different groups use it for whatever purpose they want. I use it for research. Other people are using METH for different things. And it's not what the issuer intended for the asset, which is like all digital assets are polymorphic, which means that the issuer can essentially declare what their intent for the asset is. But I think once the community takes over an asset, it becomes metamorphic. And once it becomes metamorphic, the liquidity providers, if these amendments are made to the AMM, can codify the intent of the community in terms of how they incentivize interactions, transactions with the liquidity provided into the pool. So I think that's incredibly powerful. Hopefully I'm not the only one. If you're engaged with the AMMs in any way, like, please consider these amendments. If you're someone that's written an amendment, I'll look into it this weekend. I've committed code for my sins to the XRPL, if you're going to call it code. But I will look at the amendment process. But if you want to get involved in this and help me write these amendments, I'll be really grateful. And I think they're worth pursuing. So thanks a lot, Glitches. Have a great day, and I'll see you all soon.